and welcome to That's What I'm Trying to Tell You, the podcast where women from different generations sit down to share their unique perspectives on life, current events, and everything in between. So join us as we navigate through topics with laughter, a little wisdom, and a whole lot of authenticity. Okay, this might sound terrible to you, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's our podcast and we can cry and say whatever if we want to. But the older I get, I swear to God, I don't give a shit about people and their opinions anymore. Like, I don't care what you think about me. I don't care what you think about other things, this workplace, if it happens to be a coworker or something. Like, this stuff is what it is. Do your job, go home, do your job in society. If you're a mom, a daughter.
Let me do my job in peace.
Please, I don't want to hear it. And it's funny, I think about the more I've been at my current place of work for almost a decade, and the dynamics have changed so much, and it's just like high school, whatever anybody tells you.
Any job is like that.
I think
it's
right. I think that's true. Any place is, because people are people.
Exactly, wherever you go. And one of the things that people do in high school or in life is seek validation, and it's so sad to see people I'm like, they don't care about you. They just want to get your skills for the cheapest dollar amount per hour. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about developing your so-called talent.
Right. Don't think that they're your friend.
Right.
No, and if they give you another position,
altruistic reason.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
They're just piling more shit on your plate.
Yeah. And it's not worth it. And
because you're there and they can give it to you to do.
Right. Exactly. So it's just weird to me how grown people, I've found out, are just as insecure as the 17-year-old who the boy doesn't like, or she's mad or he's mad about, stuff not going right in their lives. And the whole performance aspect of the validation too, like the passive aggressiveness of trying to get someone to see you for who you really are. People are not.
Who cares?
Yeah, people got their own problems, they're not even your efforts to try to make them accept you or see you as who you really are or whatever they're in vain, and maybe it comes from your family life, how you were raised, what kind of parents.
Everything goes back to childhood
That's
trauma.
Right.
There you go.
It's the truth.
It is absolutely the truth.
We finally know that now. So,
I'm going to interrupt
No,
you.
go
You know
ahead.
how they have the standardized testing in school? And I remember being so stressed out about those things. And
for yourself or for
myself,
your daughter?
I was that way as a test taker. And I passed this on to Jay. When I was a kid, I would tell my mom, I hope I do well. I'm having stress. And my mother would say, you know what? We pay teachers to do their job. And you know what these standardized tests are? To see how well they're doing their job. It has nothing to do with you. It's to test the teachers. And for some reason, it resonated with me.
I was told that too.
Yeah,
Somebody
and
said
I
that to
told
me, too.
Jay that. It's just to see how good a teacher they are. And if you are raised, like Kat just said, it goes back to childhood trauma. Fly over. Let it fly over. Who cares what you think? It doesn't matter. You can either choose to put that in your basket for the day or you can be like, whatever.
because it will eat at you. I don't think I've ever fully been that person to seek validation, but I've had moments where it seemed so important for me to try to maybe prove myself to an authority figure. And then after the fact, I'm like, that was so unnecessary. Like, they don't know the full me. They never will. They don't want to. They're just trying to reach their own little benchmark.
Right.
And I was the little tool for them to get there, perhaps, or whatever.
Or they're just trying to do their job.
Right.
And they don't really want to spend the mental bandwidth to know your motivations or what might upset you or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true. They don't.
I don't know if you guys have ever felt, I don't know, I don't want to go back into any potential trauma or negative experience, but have you ever had an instance where, like, maybe you were new to a situation and you go in just trying to be you, genuine, and other people then try to make you feel bad about yourself, or you feel like an apologist for yourself, and you never, it was their doing mostly, making you feel insecure?
Right. I mean, that's ringing a bell, but I mean, I can't think of a particular situation that I can describe, but Dee, go ahead, because I know that
I could tell you exactly. I had a work situation. I'm kind of proud of myself because I'm going to tell you what I did. I worked at a particular practice, and for a year, I tried to connect with these people And, you know, I had worked with other nurses and medical assistants. And I want to say that they formed an opinion about me because I sat in an office and I was a telephone triage nurse. And they didn't know anything about me, but they talked shit about me. And they talk shit about me to my face, like, oh, you don't know anything about that, do you, Diane? What do you do? What do you do? You don't have a boyfriend or anything. This went on for like a year. And so much so that at lunchtime, I was like, I don't listen to these little young heifers talk about whatever nonsense they talk about. I would go to my car and everything. And so we were there one day, one afternoon, and they were like, so tell us, what do you do in your off time? You don't have a boyfriend, or do you? What's your life like? And that's the way they would talk to me.
So
you know?
they were just sort of making the assumption that
I didn't.
this
she's
is a boring
older,
person that
right?
has nowhere to go and nobody to do it with.
Yeah, and I said, I'm gonna stop this shit right now. And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And they said, oh, you do? So when do you see him? I said, usually 3 nights a week. And they said, oh, why not just 3 nights? I said, because he's married, but he gives me 3 nights a week. Their jaws dropped and they laughed, and I said, I'm not kidding. He's married. And I said, but you know, it works. You know, my kid's away at college. This is during the time Jay was in college. And I said, it works for me. It doesn't overtax me. And, you know, it works. It's a relationship. I swear to you, I must say, like, I swear for Lord, okay? Like the Southerners will say. They treated me completely differently. I was there for almost 8 years. And from that moment, it changed everything. Okay?
This chick is different.
I mean, if they could have bowed down to me, they would have. Now, audience, you know I didn't date no married man, okay? But I was like, let me shock them so that I can stop this shit right now. Jazz, kind of like when I told that man I was a lesbian. They kept following me. Remember that?
Yeah.
Not proud of that moment, but it worked. Yeah. It worked. I said, you can talk and follow me all you want, but unless you have a sister you're going to introduce me to, I'm not interested. Do you remember that? You were in the car and you said, did you just tell that man? But it worked.
It worked. It's when we lived in L.A.
Yeah, he followed me right out. He got in his car and started it up and sped away. Yes.
Yeah.
He was harassing
Sometimes
me.
you have to know the right
Sometimes
thing to say.
you got to shock people. But yes, that is my situation. And because it lasted a year, I was like, I didn't want that energy. You know, I would go to my car every day and I was like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. And I'm going to stop it. But I said, I'm going to let it happen. I had already planned this scenario out in my head because I knew it was going to come up again. And I did. And I kept working. I was at the computer and I said, as a matter of fact, and I remember I stopped and turned my chair and I said, yeah. I do have a boyfriend. It shocked them, but it changed my life there.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
I know you, Jay, are in a completely different situation.
Yeah, it's a corporate environment, and it's just gotten weirder over the years. But
They don't respect their employees.
No, period.
I can say this.
So much so I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth mentioning. But
No.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal, and I won't go into that, but it has made me wiser as far as being in a professional environment and what you should and shouldn't offer during your 8 hours or 10 hours wherever you work. Don't give too much of yourself. Definitely don't give 100% because you can get thrown under the bus very quickly depending on what the situation is. And you shouldn't work yourself to death because it's stressful for you and it does no good.
That's very true.
know.
I'm going to have a little counterbalance to that. I think it sort of depends on the type of job that you're doing. You know, I mean, I think it's sort of circumstantial because both my husband and I are in science, and it's not, you know, it's sort of like the job structure is a little different, right? In terms of like working, it's not so much working for a corporation or something, you know what I mean? It's like I was in academia more, and you know,
It's completely different.
That's
because you know,
and you're helping people. You were
you're
helping
running
people.
a research
Right.
lab, and so
Yeah.
you know,
That's a vocation.
Yeah, you
Right.
put in a lot of hours because it benefits you directly, right? It's not like somebody's taking advantage of you or like sucking that
You
energy
didn't have
out
to
of
work.
you.
What you did was pretty much autonomous too.
Pretty
you know?
much,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
completely
That's
different.
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, so it's a different kind of thing. I often will say to my kids though that you would think that as people get older they get smarter and they get wiser. But I keep saying, those people that were dumb shits in high school and mean or whatever, they're the same way as adults.
So true.
And they're working next to you.
It's so true. And you can read them. Yeah.
I mean, and don't think that, because also I was like, you guys all went to good schools, smart people, and you might think that you're not as smart as the next person, all right? Maybe you're rating yourself at school and you don't feel you were the smartest. But you go out into the working world, and there are so many stupid people out there that you actually are way smarter than most of the population.
And they do mediocre work, too.
Yeah.
It's crazy how far you can get doing mediocre work from what I've lived. It's crazy, yeah.
That's right.
You were talking about people, having the mediocre mindset, really. And I see that a lot from everything. And no matter what you do, it's just like the world is changing every day. And my question is, and I don't think this has anything to do with my age, but it's like we talk about childhood trauma and what we're taught and all this stuff. Doesn't anybody care anymore?
Very, very little.
Yeah.
Don't you want to do better? We were telling Kat that we met these two lovely young men this week, exceptional young men. And they didn't pull their phones out. We had a lovely conversation with them. We spent time talking about a plethora of things. And all I could think as I went to the car is their parents did a good job with him. I don't need to meet the parents or whoever raised them did a really good job with them, And now it's like I'm going to give you an example. I watched the Amazon guy. I was standing at my door the other day, and he came to the top of the stairs, and he literally threw this package at my door, and it bounced back. I mean, you could have gone another 8 inches and set it right there. He literally tossed it like a football. Now, I understand they have these time constraints and all that, but what about customer service?
Yeah.
What about customer service?
Yeah, I don't even know if there's one specific reason. It's just a shift that's happened where people, they're not accountable,
Right.
They don't want to be. They don't have to
Right.
be. Like somebody that works at one of the stores around where we live, they coined a perfect phrase. They said they don't care if they live or die. And I'm like, it's kind of true. Like
They were saying that about themselves.
Yeah, he
about
says that.
people. No, just about
Oh.
people. Yeah. About
There's
other
a guy
people
that I
now.
see. It's a place that we frequent, and I said, "Wow, your view from here must be amazing because he gets to see 4 corners, right?" And he said, "It's the craziest thing." And he's a young kid, and he said, "People don't care if they live or die." He said, "You wouldn't believe the things that I see from this vantage point," and it's the truth. They
Not
just
to get negative, but yeah, but yeah.
I just want people to do better. We know you can. I know you can. Try to tell other people to do better.
Well,
Be a better version of themselves,
I mean,
the
Jay,
best.
You sent me a little clip from Instagram, and this lady is talking about how she's interacted with various people over the course of her day or whatever, and she'll ask them a question, usually in kind of a service situation, and you ask the person serving you a question.
2019 to 2026.
Yeah, like over this time period.
Yeah.
Right,
like
and you
7
make
years.
some comment, and people used to respond to whatever it was that you said or you asked, and she's showing how now you can ask a question when you're getting your coffee or when you tell them, well, I'm allergic to dairy, so please use almond milk or something. And then they, instead of saying like, okay, or any sort of, it doesn't have to be a long response,
No.
they just kind of stare at you. And you're like, did you hear me? Do you understand? And they just give you that, what do they call it? The Gen Z stare.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bizarre.
Well,
to
you know
me
what
now.
happened to us the other day? And I'm not trying to bitch, but you can tell this story about the dog.
So crazy.
We
Yeah.
went to a place to redeem a gift certificate, completely different store. And we're sitting there, it was in a neighborhood. And there's a woman walking this dog he was a brindle pattern, but his face looked like someone drew a brown line down the middle, and he had a white on one side and brown on the other. Tell the story.
So we had seen him up the street. I think it was a girl dog, doesn't matter. And so the lady's walking him down the street as we've parked, and Dee stops her and says, "Oh my God, I saw you guys up the street. I just wanted to say hi. Oh my God," adoring
Right, he's
the dog.
so cute.
So cute.
Right.
I
Yeah,
said, "Look
eyes
at
are
your
pretty."
markings," because the dog is looking at me. I let the window down.
Yeah.
I said, "You're so beautiful. You're so
Yeah.
beautiful." And
And she responds kind of like, oh, yeah, thanks. And she said the age or something. And then just abruptly says, well, we're on a walk, so. And walks away. No bye, no nothing. And we just both look at each other like, what
just
the fuck?
Turned to me and looked like, did her look, her expression was, did that bitch just say that to us?
Right. You don't know how to end the conversation, or you're so rude you didn't want to be. And it reminded me of what Kat said on that episode where we looked at that lovely house about that lady with the dog. Like, does she think, like, what am I getting into in this conversation?
Right,
you know,
like, am I going to try to sell her something? Is she afraid I'm going to try to sell her something?
Right.
I mean, if you were that, you could have just said thanks and kept going.
Right.
And it's just a weird, I'm going to use this word, vibe right now with people. And
I mean, people don't know how to be social.
No.
Right. They're very awkward that way. That's what I think.
But a lot of people are not like that. But now more.
But more and more are now.
Yeah.
They're coming out.
Mm-hmm. They are.
And I hate to be that
zombies.
person. I'm going to say this. I don't want to turn this into a bitch session. But I don't want to have to adjust myself.
Well, no, you shouldn't.
Be like, I'm not going to talk to them because they're not going to talk to me because I'm not that person.
Shouldn't. Yeah, and I try to tell my kids that too. And I also say, like, you know what? Pretty much everybody likes to get a compliment. Everybody likes it if you say something to them. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Mm-hmm. And I think that
make eye contact.
Right, and I think that they realize that, but I think a lot of people don't. And I think a lot of parents don't teach their kids about that.
For sure. It's lacking in the home.
Especially out here. I'm going to say it again. I know Kat says no, but
yeah, I don't
California
think that that's true.
Is especially, because you don't get that in the South.
Okay, but what I would say is the South is what's unusual, right?
Yeah,
maybe
I wouldn't say California. I would say, oh yeah, there's a lot of other places that you don't make chit chat. In fact, actually, I was just reading like whole countries are like that apparently. Like in Finland,
yeah, I've heard that about
in Finland, don't talk to a stranger.
Yeah, small talk is rude.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna.
But I'm an American, damn it, and that's not natural.
I'm not gonna just slam Californians because I see it lots of other places too. I would say the South is particularly friendly, is what I would say.
I wonder if there are listeners in countries where being outgoing is like you have to do it. Like you can't just walk out your front door and not say something.
I will.
That's
I
rude.
will say something.
If you're
about
listening,
that,
tell us.
Because in Italy. Actually, so my husband's Italian. We go to Italy fairly frequently, and it actually is a different sort of culture norm, I guess you might say. And it just reminds me, because I've seen it come up on Instagram for some reason, that there's all these posts where they're trying to teach Americans, when you walk into a store, you need to say buongiorno.
That's crazy.
Don't just walk into the store and not say anything to me. But people do that here.
I would never do that. I would always speak.
They're saying, but they have, that's funny that you have to have a post saying you should greet them. You should say thank you.
Okay, now here I go. And I'm not trying to make this racial, but I would love to know how many of those Americans are white Americans versus anybody else. Because I see that too here.
That's
culture
true,
is different.
Yeah.
This woman happened to be a white woman the other day. I'm sorry, she was. I noticed that some things are cultural.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
For sure.
I think it gets passed down from the parents. I guess I'm going to say in certain cultures, maybe they neglect to make that a point with their children.
Yeah.
That being polite is something
Oh yeah,
that you
they don't
need
think.
to do.
Some people don't think
right?
about
like
some
I was
things.
taught when you get up in the morning, you're supposed to say good morning to everybody in the
Absolutely.
household that you meet. But I will tell you that my husband was not raised that way. And it's so weird to me that he will just get up and walk into the kitchen or something and just not say anything to me.
What?
That's definitely cultural. I would
That's
say
definitely because no.
I mean, I was always taught. I mean, I would say it in English and in Chinese. So,
right.
That's just second nature. Yeah.
It should be. Yeah.
It is. Well, Twitty Pot listeners, if you're on a continent where the demographics are different or you are a person of color, please let us know how you communicate with people. It would be interesting to know if it's something you don't do, if it's something you're required to do and your auntie would slap you if you didn't say hi or, hold the door open for somebody. Please let us know.